The UFC is headed to the Apex, and they are taking 12 fights with them. That means we have 24 different fighters to break down and decide who we want in our DraftKings fantasy lineups. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 103 fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and DraftKings plays. But before we dive into this week, let's take a look at last week, and the week before that, and the week before that. We released a brand new tool called the Event Simulator. The Event Simulator takes every single fight on the fight card, and it simulates those fights 100,000 times. All you need to do is go to WeWantPicks.com. Under DraftKings in the menu, you scroll down, you click Run Simulator. And what this is doing is it is pulling takedown stats, grappling stats, implied probability, historical information, and it is simulating those fights 100,000 times. And then within seconds, it'll spit out those outcomes. After it spits out those outcomes, you can deep dive. You can look at all the different information like DraftKings fantasy points over those simulations, strikes over those simulations, or you can just go ahead, make a few adjustments, and build some DraftKings fantasy lineups. And people have been doing that. This tool has only existed for 1 month. And over the course of the last 4 UFC events, we have had nothing but success. We're getting DMs. We're getting comments on the YouTube channel. We're getting emails saying, I use the Event Simulator and I can't believe it worked. The most recent was from last week, and I got this email from Brad. Brad said, just wanted to let you goofballs know. At this point in the email, I've decided I hate Brad. And Brad's a troll who's sending me a nasty email. But then I continued to read, and it said, by using your app with the picks, the Freckled Salamanders dogs, Angie picks, along with the resources, I'm the king of fantasy, and I won $5,000 or something like that. And that's not unique. JLB used it the very first week it was out. Threw it into some 50-cent lineups, made a bunch of money. King Poopy, ridiculous name, made $790 off a couple dollar entry. Jeffrey made a good amount of money as well. First time using the Event Simulator. If only I'd use it in larger contests. We got a comment from producer. Event Simulator is very good. Won all my DK stuff. The Event Simulator is available right now on the website. If you're already a premium member, you already have access. We added one of the most meaningful tools in this space, and we added it for free. We didn't adjust your price. All we did was make the product you're already paying for even better. And that price, freaking $10 a month. For $10 an entire month, you will have access to every single thing that we do. Not only the brand new Event Simulator, but we also have a good old-fashioned optimizer. And this optimizer is preloaded with the best DraftKings ownership projections on the planet. Here's a look at what those projections were for last week's UFC Seattle event. We had a 3.53% margin of error, quite literally the best in the world. Go ahead. Go pay $100 for Roto Grinders. Tell me what their DraftKings ownership projections were. Go pay $300 for the other tool, the other event simulator that exists. Because that one is $300. Ours is $10. And the reason ours is $10 and the reason our entire suite of products is only $10 is because what we are doing is building the greatest offering in this space. It's $10 for every pick, every bet, every tool, the DraftKings Optimizer, the Event Simulator, Prize Picks, Underdogs, everything. One package for $10. We're not splitting out fantasy versus bets. We're not splitting out people. $10 for everything that we do. We're in the volume business. I want to build the best possible product on this planet, and I want to have as many people as humanly possible using it. It's that simple. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. You sign up today, you'll get UFC 313. You'll get UFC London. 4 cards, $10. WeWantPicks.com. How about that intro? I'm genuinely excited for the Event Simulator. I love that we were able to build that. We have somebody, if you don't know, you guys think it's just me here if you only watch this video. It's me and Jacob are the face of most of this, right? Jacob and I are doing all the things. Behind the scenes, we have Josh the web guy. Josh the web guy makes the website work. He puts everything on the website, makes it all work. He does all the technical shit. He also is like a consigliere as well, of course. But he does all that stuff. Then we have a couple other people who are involved in different capacities. We pay somebody for some of the DraftKings insight and information. We pay somebody to develop these tools. He's literally a nuclear physicist. We've been using it for a while. He also developed our artificial intelligence that went 10-2 last week. And he developed the Event Simulator. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes making this all work. And a couple of those people rely on premium to pay their bills and live their lives. So for the 4,000 or whatever it is, we appreciate every last one of you, genuinely. And not just me, but everybody behind the scenes that's just trying to make this all work. And my promise to you, clip this, save it, do whatever you want. We're never touching them. It's $10 a month. It was $10 a month 2 years ago. It's $10 a month now. It was $10 a month before the event simulator. It's $10 after. It was $10 a month when eggs were 80 cents. It's $10 when eggs are $50. It's just that simple. We built the best possible product on this planet, and we're going to leave it at this price. Because A, I care about the community, and B, it's the volume game. Go to Costco. That hot dog has been $1.50 for 40 years. And it's because that CEO said, I don't want to touch that price. Leave it. And that's what I'm doing here. Hopefully you appreciate that. I know a lot of you don't like me because of my speaking cadence and just the massive size of my crotch, and you're jealous, but you'll deal with it. It's $10 a month. Let's get into this fight card. We have 12 fights. Shockingly, this is being recorded before the weigh-in, so shockingly, no drop fights, no chaos, nothing crazy. UFC 313 lost a co-main event. Last week it was chaos at UFC Seattle. This week, steady Eddie. Other than the main event, but that swapped out 3 weeks ago. We're well past that. We're going to open up the UFC Vegas 103 fight card with Luana Carolina taking on Montana De La Rosa. Luana Carolina is $8,300. This fight's basically a pick'em at this point. The odds have moved a little bit. Luana Carolina is never worth her salary. Almost never. Yeah, she finished Julia Stoliarenko, who no longer is in the UFC. Outside of that, she doesn't cover her salary. She just doesn't. $8,300 is a lot of money, and that's because Luana's a striker. So you don't get all the extra points from the takedowns and the control time. And her volume isn't like insane. So Luana Carolina is likely going to be spending this fight on a bicycle, staying on the outside, defending takedowns, staying busy. I do actually think she wins this fight, but I don't think she's going to cover her salary. Defending takedowns and landing more strikes isn't going to be enough to do it. Look what she just did against Lucy Pudilova. She defended 2 of the takedowns, got taken down twice, still won that fight, pretty straightforward, only scored 73 points. She's taking on Montana De La Rosa, sneakily the best-looking woman in the UFC, and if you say otherwise, you have a foot fetish. Montana De La Rosa, or here, M. De La Rosa, is a wrestler. She wrestled the majority of her life. She didn't just start fighting and then desperately try to grapple. She wrestled. Then she turned to MMA. Wrestling's pretty good, and she's fought a very high slate of competition. So she is 2-3 in her last 5, but the reality is, these are good fights. JJ sucks, but Tatiana Suarez, Barber, she's fought a decent slate and has had mixed results. And that's because the wrestling's good, but it's not Tatiana Suarez good. The striking's okay. So typically she's moving forward, trying to be busy with the hands and trying to get the wrestling going. But as you build your career, as you get a little bit of name notoriety, people know exactly what you're going to do, and they're more well prepared for that. So I'm not going to pick Montana. I'm not going to put her in my lineup. She is $7,900. Let's put it this way. She won her last fight and only scored 80 points. So you could be picking a dog, throwing in her lineup as a dog, and still basically end up at even. So I think Luana wins this fight. I don't think she covers her salary. Therefore, neither one of them will be in my lineup. Then we're going to Ramazan, maybe Ramazan Beck, depending on what you're looking up. Temirov, and he's taking on Charles Johnson. Ramazan's going to come forward and bomb away like a psychopath. He's a tiny little thing. He's like a leprechaun, but not Irish. He's just this little tiny thing that moves forward, just wild looping shots, trying to find finishes. He can be technical at times, but for the most part, he's just a lightning fast technical striker. Tiny legs, but crazy power. He's going to march forward. He's going to look for the knockout. He gets creative on his feet. He works in all sorts of craziness and nonsense. Takedown defense looks decent. We don't have really a ton to go off of there. And he is coming off that UFC debut win over CJ Vergara. He is the favorite right here in DraftKings Fantasy, but in real life, outside of this computer screen, he is the underdog. Charles Johnson has full-blown flipped to the favorite. Charles Johnson, all the money came in on him. He is now literally squarely the favorite. I think he's minus 130 at this point. He's only $7,800 in DraftKings Fantasy, so if you think he wins, he may be worth the price tag. Problem is, Charles Johnson is a busy technical striker. While that's good, and it helps him win quite a few fights on a nice 4-fight win streak here, it's not the greatest DraftKings scoring. We did get a couple of takedowns out of him in his last fight over Sumaderji, and I think there might be more of the same here. So while I think Ramazan's going to win this fight, only because we're in this modern era now where the only thing viewers, commenters, judges, the only thing anybody ever cares about anymore is damage and potential damage. So I think Charles Johnson could probably be the more technical fighter here. Maybe play that game, avoid some of the chaos. But with Ramazan just moving forward, bombing away like crazy, maybe he lands clean 1 in every 10 times, but a little bit of redness, maybe a little cut, maybe a tiny bit of swelling. He's moving forward. The optics of it is that one person's trying to finish this fight and the other one's trying to avoid. I think Ramazan can win a decision because of that. Charles is probably the better fighter here. If you're on the Charles side, I'm not going to argue with you. The guy's a very good fighter. I like the guy. He was on our show. If you're on his side, he might be a good DraftKings fantasy plays. Only $7,800. And while he's not the highest scorer in the world, right? He only scored 72 points against Jake Hadley, 73 against Azit Maxim. He did score really well in the van. We're not going to get a finish here, but he scored well in his last fight because he worked in some takedowns. He had a knockdown as well, so you could take 10 points off of that. But if you think he comes in here, works in some wrestling, he might be worth it. I don't think he's going to win this fight. I don't think he's going to be in my lineup, but I know a lot of people are on his side, hence the line moving. Then we have JJ Aldrich, and she is taking on Andrea Lee. Listen, we're living in a world in 2025 where JJ Aldrich is a 2-1 favorite over anybody. That's the world we're living in, and that's a crazy world. Look at this. Went against De Silva, $9,400 salary. Huge favorite. Got fucking smoked. I'll never, ever forget that. I was furious at that fight. Yeah, she came back and beat Liang Na, but what is that? Everybody beats Liang Na. Then she beat Montana De La Rosa. Quality win. Scored 57 points. You get 30 just for winning. So she only scored 27 points. 27 points on her own. And she just lost to Veronica Hardy where she was running forward like a lunatic and just getting blasted in the mouth because she didn't set up any strikes. She didn't set up any takedowns. It was just sloppy JJ Aldrich. $8,700, you must be crazy. If you show me a ticket with JJ Aldrich in your lineup at $8,700, you need like real help. Not like fake 1-800-GAMBLE, like real, like actual, lay on a couch, cry, probably get medicated, talk about how your stepfather used to touch you. Like, get it all out because you need real help. Because she's not, even if she wins, she doesn't score any points. She's taking on Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee's a little older, but we all know women can fight a little longer into their careers. Josh Thompson and I just did a video for this channel called Bad Takes, where we talked about how old is too old in MMA. We talked about the difference between men and women, weight classes, what goes first. Talked about how speed's the first thing that goes, and then after speed goes, you get a little hesitant. You get hit a little more than the chin goes. So if you want to watch that video, watch it. It's called Bad Takes. We have a whole bunch of those. Me, former world champion Josh Thompson, doing the bad takes on this channel on We Want Picks. Andrea Lee is a busy striker. And yes, she's on a 5-fight losing skid. She has also lost 8 of her last 10. I mean, this is Sam Alvey levels of bad. But let's look a little closer. Oh, you lost to Montana De La Rosa? Not the worst loss in the world. You lost to Miranda Maverick? Not the worst loss. Oh, Silva? Not a bad loss. Macy Barber? Not a bad loss. Vivian Araujo? Not a bad loss. You beat Cynthia Calvillo? You beat the bad Shevchenko? Okay. The Modafferi loss wasn't that's not crazy. I mean, it is what it is, but Roxanne had some moments of prosperity. Oh, you lost to a woman who fought for the belt? You lost to a very good striker? Like, the reality is, Andrea Lee has lost close fights to very good people. Andrea Lee's the better striker in this matchup. And as long as she's not checked out mentally because of this ridiculous losing skid, I think Andrea Lee wins this fight. And if JJ Aldrich comes running forward like an idiot, like she did in her last fight, what success is she going to have? Andrea Lee's going to be waiting, blasting her in the mouth every time JJ comes just crashing in, looking to make something happen. So I'm going to pick Andrea Lee here. I mean, she scored 52 points in her last fight, which was a loss. 54 in the loss against Macy Barber. I'm going Andrea Lee, and I might have her in my lineup at these numbers. $7,500? She scored 104 in her last win. We're not going to get a KO out of her here. But the reality is, I think Andrea Lee can sneak this win out. And do not, under any circumstances, put JJ Aldrich in your lineup. Then we have Danny Silva, or Daniel. If he's at church or, If he's in trouble in court, Daniel Silva. But we got Danny Silva. He's taking on Lucas Almeida. Danny Silva's a striker. He's got some decent technique, plenty of movement. He's going to invest in the body early. He's going to try to get that late payoff. He does get hit a ton. He hits his opponents far less than he gets hit. And that's crazy because he's hitting his opponents with 8 significant strikes per minute. That's how high volume he can be. He doesn't have a lot of offensive wrestling, but he does have good takedown defense, a good get-up game. Not amazing at any one thing, but a solid striker. He can wear you down, take you to a decision. We just watched him fight Josh Kulibau here. He ended up getting the win, and he had to sneak in a couple of takedowns. You can see 4 here to get that done. He scored 80 points there. But he was a dog in that fight. Josh Kulibau was pretty good. And he is taking on Lucas Almeida. Lucas Almeida is a powerful striker. He's going to throw big, heavy 1-2s. He's going to come forward, set up a big right hand. And when he senses blood, he will literally do everything possible to get you out of there. He is a finisher. He goes heavy on the gas if he thinks you're in a little bit of trouble. Full-blown striker, though. Don't expect a lot of grappling out of him. There's times where he will end up on the ground with you and then just stand up and walk away. I want nothing to do with this. I'm out of here. This fight should be one of the more exciting fights on the card. The reality is you're going to have to pick your side. I think this is a razor-thin fight. I also think whoever wins is going to score a good amount of points because they both are going to come here and fight hard. Danny Silva might work in the same 4 takedowns he did in his last fight. For that reason, I'm going to pick Danny Silva. I will probably have a little bit of him in a couple of my lineups. Then we have John Castaneda taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade. John Castaneda is a Division II wrestler who has developed some solid cardio and okay hands over time. He likes to come forward, just put the pressure on, stay in your face. He's like the Wish version of Merab. Literally. He's got cardio, but not Merab level. He's got wrestling, not Merab level. Striking, not Merab. He's the Wish version of Merab. That's not an insult. You got the best 135-pounder on planet Earth and you're 70% of him? It's not an insult, right? Would you be insulted? I know people use that as an insult, but the reality is, if you're comparing somebody to the best and you're like, not that version, but close, I'll take it. So John Castaneda, almost Merab, but kind of the Chinese knockoff. He's a busy guy. And when he wins, he can score really well. We had 95 points against Kang, 85 points against Muin Gufarov. That's a good win. That is aging well. 83 against Miles Johns. Problem is, he's $8,900 in this fight. And we're not going to get a finish out of him because he's taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade. Douglas Silva de Andrade is built like a bowling ball. And I don't mean that like he's short and fat and round. He's just rock solid like a bowling ball. His head is rock solid. His body is rock solid. And he's a guy that you can hit as many times as you want. It's not going to matter. He'll just eat it. He'll take it. He's not great at any one thing, but he does have some okay power. He is very durable. He's a really tough guy that wants to fight you inside the pocket. I think John Castaneda is going to win this fight. I think he's going to come forward, stay in his face, just outwork Douglas Silva de Andrade. He's getting a little older. He's slowing down. He finally looked old and slow in this John's fight. So I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with the younger, faster John Castaneda, but I also don't think we're going to get a finish or a million takedowns. So I don't think John Castaneda is going to be worth that salary either, and Douglas Silva de Andrade isn't going to win, so don't put him in your lineup. Then we have Ricardo Ramos taking on Chepe Mariscal. Chepe will be in my lineup, and he will win this fight. That's it. Ricardo's pretty good. He's slick. He'll find things in scrambles. He's a finisher through and through. And I love watching Ricardo fight. Dangerous fighter. Dangerous everywhere. Good everywhere. But this is going to be too much for him because he's taking on Chepe Mariscal. Chepe Mariscal is a guy that wrestled in college, has fought in kickboxing tournaments, has won jiu-jitsu tournaments, and he has that Merab cardio. He will just go forever. He's got all dog in him. He will have cardio for days. He's just going to move forward nonstop, coming. Oh, okay, hold on. First of all, if for some reason you're watching this with subtitles or captions on, I want it to be very clear. When I was saying he's coming, that's C-O-M-I-N-G, like from point A to point B coming. Okay? So just if it was captioned C-U-M, I need you to like file a complaint or something because those captions are bad. That is not what I said or how I meant it. Chepe Mariscal is moving forward. Hard, fast, aggressive, powerful, sensual. Chepe Mariscal is going to come forward and look to fight. He's never taken a step back. He's like a little Drekus with a little more skill. And therefore, I think he wins this fight. I don't think Ricardo Ramos is going to be able to hang. He's going to be grabbing things. He's going to be looking for chokes and scrambles. And there may be a minute or two where Chepe's like in something. But the reality is he's going to pull out. He's going to go back in. He's going to pull out. And Chepe's going to get this done. Chepe Mariscal. How we ended up in a situation where it's just like sexual references in a Chepe Mariscal fight. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Like, I don't prep this. I have notes in front of me and some fucking dumb dick loser was like, this guy has to read notes. Have you ever even watched UFC, bro? Yeah, you fucking clown shoe. I got to sit here and break down 12 fights. 12. I'm going to remember every single thing about every one of these fighters, who they last fought. No. So yeah, I got notes in front of me. You unprepared dweeb. I know what you don't do for a living, and that's have important meetings. Oh, he's got notes? What a loser. Anyway, whoever that guy was, fuck him. Chepe wins this fight. Let's move on, guys. Clean your minds. Clean your soul. Because we're about to break down Mario Pinto. We got Mario Pinto making his UFC debut. And it's going to be an interesting fight. We just had another heavyweight UFC debut, a little bit of a prospect, Taliesin Teixeira, a few weeks ago, who blew out the board. Guy got a knockout in 8 seconds, got all the points. Mario Pinto is not quite the same. He is a technical striker. He'll take his time. He'll find a rhythm. And then he'll let his hands go. He does a nice job working in leg kicks as well. He's got power, but he doesn't chase it. So he's not coming out just recklessly looking to take somebody's head off. He'll come out. He'll try to find a rhythm. He'll try to point his way. And then if the power's there, it's there. If he finds it, he finds it. Mario Pinto is definitely good. He's got some wrestling. He's got all sorts of tools and skills, but he is a UFC debut, and it is very hard to fully trust these UFC debuts, especially in 2025 at these high price points. He is taking down Austen Lane. Austen Lane spells his name with an E, which is an insane way to spell it. I think we can all agree he is a full-time fade because of how he spells his name. It's just dumb. He just beat Robelis to Spain, though, and he was a big underdog in that fight. Basically the same amount of underdog he is in this fight. But he didn't beat Robelis because he stood toe-to-toe with the Olympic Taekwondo champion. He beat Robelis because he turned into a giant Nurmagomedov. Just wrestle, cage control, wrestle, cage control. And the guy he fought had no idea how to defend a takedown to save his entire life. Austen Lane is a guy that is big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's a former NFL player, but he has no chin. And if you touch him clean, you're going to get it over with. When he came in, he fought Justin Taffa. There was an eye poke. He actually looked okay up until the eye poke. Second fight, bang, knocked out cold. Fought the knees, bang. Robelis to Spain turned into a wrestler. This fight, he might try to wrestle again. But Mario Pinto's a decent wrestler. Mario Pinto's going to be the pick. And if you're playing DraftKings Fantasy, you're going to need some exposure to Mario. Because there are fights, or there are lineups where he's going to win, and he'll win by finish, and he'll score really well. I don't necessarily think you need that same level of exposure to Austen Lane. Sure, he could win. I'm not feeling it. It's possible. Robelis had giant holes in his game. Mario doesn't. Mario should win. Throw him in your lineup. Then we have Danny Barlow. And he is taking on a tall, skinny, llama-looking Sam Patterson. When Sam Patterson takes his shirt off and walks into the octagon, they have to shut the lights because he's so pale that the glow from his body would blind everybody. Everybody paid good money for these tickets. They're in the Apex. The cheapest seat in there is $2,500. So then this guy takes his shirt off and everybody's blinded. Just like a neck, like a giraffe, and then a head like just a bear head. Just this massive white head on this beanpole neck with the whitest skin you've ever seen in your entire life. That might throw Danny Barlow off because he's like, what's he looking at? Like, you're fighting into the sun. But I think Danny Barlow can get this done because Danny Barlow is very good. He's a good striker. He's got some power. He's got some speed. He does a really, really good job working at range. And then when he's comfortable, when he finds his opening, he'll enter that pocket. He'll lead with some uppercuts. He'll finish with some hooks. He's got a lot of variety in his hands. He can make a lot of things happen. On the ground, he's got good BJJ. He just beat Nikolai Veretennikov, where he did miss weight. That wasn't a great look. But we saw the speed. We saw the accuracy. And Nikolai's a decent striker. He's taking on Sam Patterson. Even just looking at the letters, I'm getting blinded. Sam Patterson is ridiculously tall. That's his thing. That's his whole identity. I'm tall. It's all right that I'm ugly. I'm tall. Hey, I'm tall. And he's tall, he's skinny, he's long. And he uses that on the ground. On his feet, he's not wildly fast. He doesn't do a good job keeping you at range. So on his feet, you don't really feel that reach advantage. On the ground, though, he's wrapping you up. He's losing the long guy techniques. Darces, anacondas, just anything long. And he can be a little trouble. I'm giving him a hard time for just being see-through white. But the reality is he's okay. He did just beat Kiefer Crosby. That guy's good. But if you go back watching the Yanal Ashmael's knockout, I think we're going to get somewhat of the same thing here. Danny Barlow is accurate as shit. He hits hard as hell. And he actually has 1 inch longer reach than Sam Patterson. 1 inch in the arms, 4 inches in the dirt. I'm going Danny Barlow. Period. End of story. I will have him in my lineup. Then we got William Gomis. Listen, I can't stand the guy. William Gomis. So the most boring fighter on the UFC roster has to be Grant Dawson. Literally, the most boring fighter on the UFC roster. Bang. Grant Dawson. One time he made a comment about bouncing a quarter off his wife's ass, and then for 10 minutes, people were like, this guy is not boring. And then he came back out, reminded us in his next fight how boring he is. Right under him is William Gomis. Because William Gomis is boring and French, which is like a double problem. We did see glimpses of not boring in his last fight. It's kind of a dogfight at times. And William Gomis showed up, tried to make some things happen. So we know he's got some dog in him. We've seen the dog in William Gomis. But the reality is he still wants to hang out on the outside, fight at distance. The fact that he went 3 rounds with Giannis Gamori is insane. The fact that it was a robbery over William Gomis or Joannis Brito. He didn't beat him. But he still only scored 64 points. He was a huge underdog. Won and only scored 64 points. William Gomis actually probably wins this fight, but you can't spend $8,800 on this guy. That's nuts. He's fighting Hyder Amil. Hyder Amil is the opposite of William Gomis. While William Gomis is tall and long and wants to hang out on the outside and just point fight and not get in any trouble, I don't want to actually be in a real fight. Hyder Amil is short and stocky and just comes forward like a cannonball looking for a fight. He moves forward, bombing away, getting in your face, using power and speed and just trying to make a fight ugly. He just knocked out Zhang Young Lee. Zhang Young Lee, what the hell was his name? The Korean Panther, or I forget what his nickname was. But he just baited that guy into a brawl and then won by knockout because you're not going to out-brawl Hyder Amil. I don't think William Gomis is going to play that game. The one time that boring William Gomis is a blessing is the one time we need him to be boring. And I think that's what he's going to do. He's going to hang on the outside, not commit to anything, play the matador as Hyder's just running in like crazy, tag him up, step off, tag him up, step off, win a decision. I think William Gomis wins this fight. I am not spending $8,800 on him because he doesn't score well because he doesn't do shit. Then we have Nasrat Haqparast. And Nasrat Haqparast is fighting Esteban Ribovics. This is a very good fight. This is an interesting fight. And this fight had incredible line movement. If you're looking at betting odds, Nasrat opened as a 2-1 favorite, and he is now a 2-1 underdog, which means the rich people first and then the general public after all looked at this fight and said, Nasrat's losing. And they all bet the other side, and the line just went crazy. Nasrat's not bad, though. He's got decent skills, pretty well-rounded. He's a solid striker overall, lots of volume. He lands more than 6 significant strikes per minute. Pretty good takedown accuracy at 84%. And that takedown accuracy is what keeps the fights on his feet, gets his hands going, can make things happen. He doesn't have an insane amount of power. We did see some power in the Jamie Mullarkey fight, but the reality is Nasrat's typically trying to keep fights on the feet, getting his hands going, trying to out-volume people. He did land 146 significant strikes against Jared Gordon, and I don't think he won that fight. That felt like a bit of a homer call, but the reality is he let his hands go. He's busy. He's a high-volume guy, but Jared Gordon sort of let him do that. Esteban Ribovics may not. Esteban Ribovics is very good. He's an impressive striker. He's got some sneaky power. His strikes are tight. They're short. They're accurate. He's got that high, tight guard. He works forward. He'll pick his shots well. And despite all of the knockouts he has on his record, he's not just a striker. He's got nice takedowns, good BJJ. He'll shoot clean doubles, upper body trips. I think Esteban wins this fight. And I think he can score really well doing it. Even if he doesn't finish Nasrat, he may put up a performance like he did against Daniel Zellhuber. Because even in the Daniel Zellhuber fight, he was in a little bit of trouble. He survived an onslaught, struggled with range a little bit, but he still got it going, still put up some numbers. and still scored pretty well, especially as an underdog. So I think Esteban Ribovics will win this fight. I think he can score well, and I think it's okay to put him in your lineup. Then we have the co-main event of the evening. Cody Brundage taking on Julian Marquez. Listen, pick your side. I am going to be on the Cody Brundage side. I know how people feel about him. I mean, this record's tricky. The SD Dumas fight, stepped up on short notice. I bet on him. I thought he was going to smoke SD Dumas, and honestly, he should. He should smoke SD Dumas. But then he started... The first minute of that fight, boom, takedown. Looks great, amazing. Then he starts pulling guillotine. It got crazy in there. Okay, comes out, fights Jacob Moncoon, elbow to the back of the head, wins himself a nice little Oscar there, gets a DQ win. So at this point, he doesn't have like the fans really behind him. Then he fights Zach Reese, power bombs the dude. Power bombs, literally picks him up, power bombs out of a triangle, knocks him out. All right, great, he's back. Fights Bo Nickel. That was kind of a sacrificial lamb situation. Turns out, looked pretty good. At one point in time, he had an underhook, and he launched Bo Nickel across the cage. Launched him. Comes out this last fight against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, another back of the head shot. That's a straight up no contest, as it should have been, because it was pretty illegal and pretty hard. So I understand a lot of people look at Cody Brundage and like, oh, there's always something up with the fight. You know what's always up with the Cody Brundage fight? They're exciting as shit. That's what's always up with the Cody Brundage fight. Every fight he's in is fun, especially for the first couple of minutes. Every fight he's in. Cody Brundage got the hair done. He went over to Turkey. He got the hair done. And it looks good. And when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you fight good. I genuinely think full hairline Cody Brundage is going to get this done. He is fighting someone somewhat dangerous in Julian Marquez. Every single one of his wins is by stoppage, but most of his losses are as well, including his last two. Zach Reese, the person who got powerbombed to oblivion, knocked out Julian Marquez in what felt like 2.5 seconds. Then we had Barlow, Marc-Andre, come forward, TKO Julian on the feet. Just too busy. Rodriguez has power for days, so I get that one. So 3 knockout losses in a row. Somehow this guy's the favorite. Fighting a guy who has college-level wrestling in Cody Brundage. Big power in his hands in Cody Brundage. And I get, Julian Marquez also has some power. He's also dangerous. He finds ways to win. A couple of these wins, was it the Maki Pitolo one? He was losing the fight. Then found the submission to get the win late in the 3rd round. So I get it. He's got a little bit of dog in him, and as long as his chin's there, he's not going to quit. But the reality is he basically lost 4 of his last 5, 3 in a row by knockout. I can't be on the Julian Marquez side here. I got to go Cody Brundage. And the fact that he's a good-sized underdog in DraftKings Fantasy is only good news. He will be in my lineup. Then we have the main event of the evening. We have Manel Kape taking on Asu Almabayev on somewhat short notice. Asu Almabayev stepped up like 2 weeks ago. This is supposed to be Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval's out. Asu steps in. The rumor was Brandon Royval got like knocked out in training. Something bad. Anyway, we got Manel Kape. In his last fight, if you only saw his last fight, you would think Manel Kape was the greatest striker that's ever walked the face of the earth. Because he was lighting up Bruno Silva. And then he started styling on him, doing all sorts of crazy shit. Just really showing everybody there are levels to this shit. And Manel Kape's a very good striker. He always has been a very good striker. But he's also a guy that can be low volume, can be boring, doesn't commit to things all the time. So Manel Kape, before his last fight, was not somebody the world had a lot of confidence in his fights. But because of what he did to Bruno Silva, who I might remind you is old, now he's this big favorite, and he's going to dominate this fight. And while I do appreciate his takedown defense is pretty good, and I appreciate his striking is very good, I do worry. His decision-making isn't always there. Sometimes he does stuff just for fun, and he doesn't necessarily have high volume. If we go back to the Makayev fight, who was the last good wrestler he fought, it was a staring contest because Manel was so worried about what might come his way. He didn't do anything. He was hesitant. And this could be something similar because he's taking out Asu Almabayev. Asu Almabayev is a busy, aggressive wrestler and a busy, aggressive striker. Comes forward, throws everything at you. He'll work in some spinning attack. He's a flashy dude. He's got wrestling. He's got cardio. We'll see what happens here. He has fought 5 rounds before in the regional scene. This is short notice. And this is during Ramadan. Asu's a Muslim, I believe. Manel's a Muslim. So that should be in level playing field with the no water, no food situation. But I think Sue is a very good underdog here. I'm going to pick Manel. Ultimately, I'm picking Manel because he was full training camp. Even though that last win was over somebody who's not quite as good as people are making him out to be, I do think there is something to be said about the confidence you get from a win like that. A phenomenal performance over Bruno Silva. All the hype. He's feeling good about himself. He might come in here and be more active. He may not be worried about the takedowns, and he will let his hands go. And if that's what we get, then I think he can win this fight. I think this goes to a decision. I think it's a little bit of back and forth. I don't think this is a clean run through each other type situation. I'm going to pick Manel Kape. I don't know if I'm going to put him in my lineup. I may actually have a Sue in my lineup, or I'll have multiple lineups with both. Because if Manel wins, it's a lot of just don't get taken down and stay busy. And if Manel was cheaper, let's go back to him. If Manel was cheaper, it'd be different. But he did just score 99 points in that fight. He scored 92 in a 3-round decision over Dos Santos. So he probably covers his salary here in a 5-round fight. But I'm just terrified of this staring contest that we got in the Mikhaev fight. So Manel Kape may or may not be in my lineup. Asu Almabayev, if you're on that side, should be in your lineup. Guys, that's the breakdown. Make sure you check out the tools, the picks, the bets, and everything else we have to offer. Obviously, the Optimizer is an OG tool. It's preloaded with the best DraftKings ownership projections on the planet. The Event Simulator is the newest, the latest, and greatest tool that we have added. It simulates fights 100,000 times. It gives you those outcomes, and then you can use those outcomes and automatically build DraftKings fantasy lineup. What I showed before, these are the results. It's only existed for 4 events, and these are just some random comments and DMs and some tickets that have been shared with me from people who used the Event Simulator over the last 4 events. It's by far, without question, the greatest offering in this space. No exaggeration whatsoever. It's $10, an entire month. You could think my insight is absolute dog shit, and that's fine. The tools are the tools. Tools are data. Tools are information. Tools are insight. The Optimizer is a tool. The DraftKings ownership projections are quite literally the best on planet Earth. You don't need my insight to have the best ownership projections and an Optimizer and an Event Simulator. Go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member, unlock all of it. The tools, the picks, the bets, everything. No tiers, one package, $10 for an entire month. You love it? You want to pay for a year? It's $100 for a year. You want to do lifetime? It's $300 for your entire lifetime. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top.